Our job, as usual, everywhere you go, is keep the people safe.
Some words of encouragement before these Cook County Sheriff's Police head out to patrol the village of Robbins. They've been working in the village since Robbins police walked off the job Friday night.
In 2021, the police department in Robbins, Illinois didn't collapse because of chaos. It collapsed because of neglect. For years, the village failed to renew its police union contract. Wages stayed low. Working conditions worsened. Officers quietly left. And eventually, the department reached a breaking point that no press release could hide. On October 3, 2021, 12 of the 14 officers at the Robbins Police Department called in at the same time. No patrols, no backup, no illusion of control. When a town loses its police force overnight, it isn't a protest anymore. It's a warning flare. Cook County Sheriff's deputies had to step in immediately, not because of crime spikes, but because Robbins no longer had the infrastructure to police itself. That moment exposed something deeper than staffing shortages. It exposed leadership failure. The newly elected mayor, Darren Bryant, assured residents that they were safe and promised a plan to rebuild the department. On paper, the solution sounded simple: new leadership, fresh direction, accountability restored. That's when David Shepard entered the picture. Shepard was brought in as police chief during one of the most unstable periods in the department's history. And against expectations, he did something rare in modern municipal politics. He stabilized the department. Staffing was restored, crime dropped, operations normalized. But reform has a problem. It creates records, and records make corruption nervous. Behind the scenes, tension grew between Chief Shepard and Mayor Bryant, not over crime strategy or public safety, but over control. And in local government, control often matters more than results. Despite measurable improvements, Shepard was terminated. What followed wasn't just a wrongful termination claim. It was a lawsuit that alleged corruption at the highest level of village leadership, including evidence handling and official misconduct. And that lawsuit cracked open the door to the real story. Because when Shepard was removed, he was replaced by a man whose name would soon become synonymous with abuse of authority: Robbins Police Chief Carl Scott. Scott wasn't hired to fix a broken department. He was installed to manage the fallout, which brings us to April of 2024, and a man named James Snow. Snow runs a YouTube channel called Tyrant Terminator Audits. He's known for exercising constitutional rights in public spaces, documenting police behavior, and exposing exactly the kind of unchecked authority that thrives in small, struggling departments. His audit at a healthcare center in Robbins should have been routine. Instead, it became the first public glimpse of how deep the rot really went. And in hindsight, that first interaction with Chief Scott wasn't an incident. It was foreshadowing.
I've never had that.
I can understand,
Okay,
and that's
we
probably
have, we have people that we report to. Okay,
real quick. The
yeah.
reason why they probably never came in and done it is because they probably don't know that they have a right to do it. Sir, are you like the chief? Oh, okay. How you doing, sir? I was trying to ask for your badge number. That's in your name.
How can I help you?
Your name and badge number will be here. Help.
Chief of Police of Robbins Police Department.
Oh, you don't want to give your name?
You can get that on the internet.
Okay. Well, I know it's part of you guys' policy. I don't actually need any help. I explained to these officers.
Can we actually leave, please?
Definitely after I'm done conducting my business. I have official business here, sir.
That's my business is done, if you don't mind me.
Sir, I have a file for you. My business is not done.
For your medical records.
No, I'm not looking for medical records.
Sir.
The general information for this department, sir.
You
Why are
got
you
to give a card.
why are you escalating the situation, chief? Yeah, because you're telling me my business is done and it's not.
He hasn't said what
No, can you give
information he
him,
needs.
give him a card for the business here so he can go?
Sir, I got to file a FOIA before I go. If you're
You don't file FOIAs.
what's the
If
information?
Yes, you do, sir.
FOIAs, you don't file FOIAs in the place of business.
absolutely you can.
Send them the information. And what is
So okay, so can I show you the law where it say I can do it?
What are you trying to FOIA?
General information for this department.
Here's the general information right here.
No, ma'am. No, sir. That's not what I want.
What is that you want, sir?
Specific stuff that I'm going to put on my request. I don't have to tell you, sir.
Okay, right now
Respectfully.
you have to leave.
So you saying if I don't leave, I'm gonna be arrested?
Sir, I'm telling you right now you have to leave.
Is it a lawful command?
Your choice on whatever you wanted to do.
No, I'm saying if it
According to James Snow, the encounter escalated fast. Not because of his behavior, but because of authority that didn't like being questioned. Chief Carl Scott and other officers placed James in handcuffs. They put him in the back of a patrol car, and eventually, they issued citations for disorderly conduct and breach of the peace. On paper, those charges sound serious. In practice, they're often placeholders. Vague enough to justify an arrest, flexible enough to survive until a courtroom intervenes. And that's exactly what happened. Months later, James stood in court while a judge did something that rarely benefits defendants in small-town cases. The judge watched the footage. Not a report, not an officer's summary, the actual video. And once the footage spoke for itself, the case collapsed. Both charges were dismissed. That moment matters, because dismissal isn't just a legal outcome. It's a verdict on credibility. So James did what the system claims it wants people to do. He didn't retaliate. He didn't escalate. He didn't take it to social media first. He went to the Robbins Police Department to file a formal complaint against Chief Scott. This is the part where accountability is supposed to begin. Internal review, paper trail, professional oversight. But that only works in departments that believe complaints are warnings, not threats. Because when James walked into that building, he wasn't just filing paperwork. He was challenging the one thing Chief Scott depended on most: silence. And in departments built on silence, complaints aren't processed. They're resisted. This wasn't a citizen asking to be heard. This was a man whose arrest had already been exposed in open court. And that made him dangerous. Not because he broke the law, but because he proved that the law could see through the badge. And what happened next would make it very clear that Robbins wasn't interested in accountability. It was interested in control.
So you have your ID?
Oh, nah. I don't just ride around with ID. Why would you need my ID?
Yes, I need your ID.
Why? Because I'm filing a complaint. Just I have my answer. Why do you need it?
Yeah, he wants to run away.
No. Sir, we need your identification. What? Because the officer is going to issue a citation for a nuisance violation.
A nuisance violation.
Yes, so they're going to issue a citation for that, sir.
So you guys are gonna infringe on my rights again.
You need to produce identification or your name and date of birth, so our officer can have it, so we can get your information and issue you the citation.
So surrender my Fourth Amendment right to that. Is that what you said?
Sir, identification or name and date of birth.
I'm not gonna surrender my rights. Okay, sir.
Well, that's fine.
I'm not gonna surrender.
Not a problem. So you know the law. Then, if you refuse to give yourself your identification, then you have to be fingerprinted and get identification that way.
If I'm
Your choice.
suspected of a crime.
Right now, you're in violation of your local ordinance, so you're going to receive a local ordinance citation for public nuisance.
Okay, so
Your decision
my
is
information.
Your
And if I don't, I'll be arrested.
Did I say that?
Okay,
I said that you would be properly identified. That's all I said.
I'll guess my wiki.
Sir, there's your choices. We're not going to go back.
So I'm not finna just
Okay.
follow y'all to just
That's fine.
It's gonna be on you again.
I'm done. That's cool. It's been on me before.
Okay, so then get ready then, man. Your qualified immunity go out the window.
No.
Contact Robbins Insurance.
Are you going to give him your ID?
I'm not surrendering my
Are
rights.
you going to give him your identification?
I'm not finna surrender my rights.
So you are aware that no video or photos is allowed.
That's not a
That's fine. It's your opinion.
That's not a law. I just gave you
You're
that.
asking your identification so that you can receive a citation to be on your way, and you refuse to do so.
If I'm gonna say this,
No.
I will do it if I'm threatened with arrest. Put it like that. If you say I will be
It's a
arrested, I don't
citation.
do it.
It's a citation.
Then I will.
You're not going to hear the words arrest come out of my mouth.
Okay.
I'm smarter than that.
Okay.
It's a citation. You're going to give him your identification so you can receive your citation like any other thing and move on your way.
I'm not gonna surrender my rights. Sir.
Did I ask you your rights? I asked
My
you
rights, I have a
identification.
right to be in my person's papers in effect. Fourth
You
Amendment. I have a right.
but you don't have the right to photo or video when it's clearly posted.
That's about a law.
That's fine. What are you going to give him your identification?
I'm not surrendering my rights.
So you want to be fingerprinted and go through that process.
Well, if you want to unlawful?
Okay, well, that's fine. If we can go this way.
Yep, you can turn your camera off because you're not going to video when you're back there.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. What's up?
No. Why you
Yeah, I did.
Why'd you being aggressive?
Shit, that's what you are.
I ain't
Wow, shut up. Come on in.
even did nothing.
This. I don't care what you got. Sit down. Sit down.
I got hard-headed this, Chief.
Yeah.
This is where the story takes a turn, not because of what we can see, but because of what was deliberately hidden. The body camera footage ends with Chief Scott ordering the other officers to turn off their cameras. That order alone matters, because body cameras don't malfunction on command. They're shut off by choice. What Chief Scott didn't account for was the interview room camera. Thus, that camera kept rolling. There was no audio attached to the footage obtained through public records. And with the body cams turned off, there's no official record of what was said inside that room. But the video shows enough. According to reports and subsequent investigations, James was confined in that room with Chief Scott and other officers for more than 30 minutes. During that time, James alleges that he was beaten and aggressively interrogated. This is where power reveals itself. No witnesses, no audio, no body cameras, just authority behind closed doors. At one point, it was reported that Chief Scott asked another officer for a baton. That officer refused. That refusal matters too, because it suggests that even inside that room, there were lines some officers weren't willing to cross. James's wristwatch was taken and intentionally smashed. His cell phone was later found in a nearby sewage drain. Those aren't enforcement actions. They're messages. Eventually, James was released with a summons for a nuisance charge. A far cry from the earlier accusations that had already collapsed in court. And here's the part that exposes the system most clearly. An investigation was launched almost immediately. Less than 2 weeks later, CBS News Chicago broke the story, becoming the first major outlet to take it beyond YouTube. At that point, there was no viral video, no public outrage loop, no national pressure campaign, just allegations, just reporting, just evidence moving quietly through the system. Despite the lack of public scrutiny, Chief Scott was placed on unpaid administrative leave. That should have been the end of it. Instead, it became a political problem. Mayor Bryant moved to terminate Scott, and before that could happen, Scott resigned. Resignation is often framed as an exit. In reality, it's a strategy. Because while Scott avoided being officially fired, he didn't avoid accountability. Civil lawsuits followed. Criminal charges followed. And for a police chief, that combination leads to something far more serious than losing a job. It leads to losing the badge forever.
He took me in his room, slammed me down on like this little metal plate where you sit at, and he told the two officers to cut the cameras off, and they just started beating me.
4:30, new police body cam video shows a former acting police chief in the south suburb of Robbins hitting a man in the back of his head. We first brought you this story a year and a half ago. Happened in July 2024 when a 43-year-old man came to the police department to file a complaint against the chief over a previous incident.
Acting police chief, rather, is facing criminal charges. Our Andrew Ramos broke this story last month. 47-year-old Carl Scott was on duty last month when a man known as Tyrant Terminator Audits on social media walked into the police station to file a complaint against him related to an earlier incident. That is where the trouble started.
Scott was charged with multiple offenses, including aggravated battery, official misconduct, and obstruction of justice for attempting to destroy Snow's cell phone, which had recorded some of the assault. Snow and his attorney, Jed Stone, were both in Cook County Criminal Court to sit in on Scott's pretrial hearing, where Scott was successfully served with a civil lawsuit in connection to the attack.
This isn't some rookie cop that didn't know the difference. He was the chief of police of the village, and he beat my client.
He accuses Scott of repeatedly hitting him in the head while the two other officers watched. Court documents state that Scott dropped James's cell phone into a sewer outside the police station, where it was later recovered. If convicted, Scott faces up to 5 years in prison.
Robbins' former acting police chief Carl Scott has pled guilty to battery charges. This is a story we broke back in July of 2024. Scott has been sentenced to 2 years probation. He also had his law enforcement certificate revoked, meaning he can no longer work as a police officer.
For reasons that are still hard to understand, Chief Scott made a decision that no defense attorney would ever recommend. Immediately after CBS News ran the story, Scott reached out to them. Not through counsel, not through a statement, but with an offer to sit down for a personal interview, to tell his side. And that decision changed everything. Because when authority figures are under investigation, silence is usually protection. Speaking is exposure. The interview that followed has since been described by many as one of the most uncomfortable law enforcement interviews of the year. Not because it revealed new facts, but because it revealed something else entirely. a complete lack of control. Scott didn't come across as misunderstood. He didn't appear measured, and he didn't sound like someone wrongly accused. Instead, he looked defensive, erratic, and emotionally unsteady. At times, the interview felt less like an explanation and more like a meltdown. Viewers compared it to infamous public relations disasters, the kind of interviews that don't clarify the truth but accidentally underline it. And that's the irony. This was Scott's opportunity to regain credibility, to appear professional, to calm the situation. Instead, he amplified it. Every pause felt uncomfortable. Every denial sounded rehearsed. Every emotional spike raised more questions than it answered. What the interview ultimately did was strip away the uniform. For the first time, the public wasn't looking at a police chief. They were watching a man struggling to defend behavior that no longer fit the narrative of authority. And once that image is broken, it doesn't come back, because investigations don't just rely on evidence, they rely on credibility. And in that interview, Scott didn't just fail to clear his name, he accelerated the collapse of it.
Tonight, in an interview you'll see only on CBS News Chicago, former Chief Carl Scott spoke to our Jermont Terry, apologizing and taking responsibility for what happened.
Everybody needs to know the why, not the one-sided narrative.
Scott understands the video is damning, and he admits on that day he should have done one thing.
Walk away.
Instead, Scott says he let this man, who CBS Chicago identified as James, get the best of him.
When we humanize the badge, so when we humanize that, then we understand. You understand the frustration. You understand what it took. You understand what's at stake. Then you understand what you're protecting. So then the badge meant nothing at that point.
His actions cost him his badge.
I first initially came to Robbins as the deputy chief.
And his law enforcement career, which included 23 years as a federal agent before joining Robbins PD.
A defaming of my name has caused a strike against my integrity.
What did you mean when you said cut the cameras off?
My mind wanted to hold a conversation with him.
Scott resigned days before the Robbins mayor wanted to terminate him.
One mistake doesn't define a person.
And after that 2-year probation period, Scott won't be watched anymore, but he will never be allowed to work in law enforcement again here in Illinois.
In a small Illinois village, the Robbins Police Department had already become a cautionary tale of how quickly things can spiral out of control. By 2021, a department that was supposed to protect its citizens had essentially collapsed. 12 of its 14 officers called in sick in protest over low pay and poor working conditions, leaving the village practically defenseless. The Cook County Sheriff had to step in just to keep the streets safe. The village's newly elected mayor, Darren Bryant, promised reform. Enter David Shepard, brought in as the new police chief. He managed the impossible. He rebuilt the department, fully staffed it, and even helped reduce the crime rate. Yet, political clashes with the mayor led to his termination. Shepard later filed a lawsuit alleging corruption, setting the stage for his replacement, Chief Carl Scott. And this is where the story takes a darker turn. Fast forward to April 2024, when James Snow, a YouTube auditor known as Tyrant Terminator Audits, decided to check in on a local health care center. What happened next wasn't just an ordinary run-in with the police. It was a foreshadowing of chaos. According to Snow, Chief Scott and 2 officers handcuffed him, placed him in a patrol car, and issued citations for disorderly conduct. The court later dismissed these charges after reviewing footage, clearing Snow of wrongdoing. But the encounter didn't end there. When Snow attempted to file a formal complaint, body camera footage abruptly cuts out. The chief had ordered the cameras off. What remains captured on an interview room camera shows a disturbing sequence. James was allegedly trapped, beaten, and interrogated for over 30 minutes. His wristwatch smashed, his phone thrown in a drain, and all of it orchestrated under Scott's supervision. Eventually, Snow was released with only a minor summons. Despite mounting evidence and public attention from CBS News Chicago, Chief Scott initially faced only unpaid administrative leave. Mayor Bryant attempted to terminate him, but Scott resigned before the firing could be formalized. Even so, criminal charges and lawsuits quickly followed. Then came the twist nobody expected. While still under investigation, Scott somehow maneuvered into public office. Elected vice president of Elementary School District 159, parents in the community were blindsided. Someone facing serious allegations whose actions had been caught on camera quietly became a school board leader. And Scott didn't help his image, offering what has been called one of the most awkward, cringe-worthy interviews of 2025, doing little to explain his actions and much to highlight how political games can shield the powerful. What makes this story chilling isn't just the abuse of authority. It's the system that allowed it to happen, the layers of oversight that failed, and the way one individual managed to escape full accountability while stepping into another position of trust. This isn't just a tale about a corrupt police chief. It's a warning about how easily power can slip through the cracks and how the public often learns too late.
Though Carl Scott Sr. stepped down as Robbins police chief more than a year ago following that violent altercation that was captured on video, those concerns have now followed him to his new position here on the school board with demands for a second resignation. But Scott says he's not backing down. This footage of then Robbins Police Chief Carl Scott Sr. hitting a man in front of other officers has parents raising concerns at Wednesday night's District 159 school board meeting in Madison, where Scott, now serving as the school district's vice president, faced calls for his resignation.
Our children deserve great leadership, not subprime leadership, and a leadership that deals with integrity and not violence. Our children deserve a role model with integrity and honor. And Carl Scott is not that person to me. And the community, if he is not removed, the community will band together and we will make our voices heard in this community.
How does the conduct displayed in the video align with the district's values related to student safety, conflict resolution, and respect? The behavior shown in the video appears inconsistent with the standards we expect from those entrusted with the care of our children.
But here's the kicker: instead of owning up, Scott treated the meeting like a performance. He addressed the parents and community as if he were auditioning for sympathy points, carefully avoiding any real accountability. No acknowledgement of the body cam footage, no mention of the assault allegations, nothing that showed he understood the severity of his past actions. Instead, he spoke in vague assurances, emphasizing moving forward and serving the community, as if decades of misconduct could be wiped clean with a few rehearsed sentences. The parents, many of whom had only just learned of his criminal investigation, were left stunned, trying to reconcile the man in front of them with the footage and reports they'd seen online. This meeting wasn't a chance for redemption. It was a window into a system that allows someone under criminal scrutiny to step into a position of trust without scrutiny. It exposed a shocking disconnect between accountability and opportunity, and the chilling reality that power and perception often outweigh truth. In short, Scott wasn't there to explain. He was there to survive. And in that room, with the parents watching, it became painfully clear Dee's survival had become his priority, not responsibility.
Good evening to our community and fellow board members. In response to the things that have been said, number one, I respect anyone's opinions. I respect your views, but there are just a couple comments that I would like to make, and I don't have a problem with addressing. When I went and conducted my own statement with CBS, I tried to make it clear and portray exactly who I am and what I stand for. One thing that they did not air is that if we took every person in this room and we put them on public display, would you stay and sit in that room, that same room? Number one, I was not terminated. I resigned. Prior to going to the police department, I successfully retired as a federal agent. 25 and a half years. I have not had nothing.
And as if the previous theatrics weren't enough, Scott launched into what can only be described as a cringe-worthy pity party. Several minutes of rehearsed excuses, exaggerated grievances, and desperate appeals for sympathy. The parents sat in disbelief, watching a man who had been caught on camera abusing his authority, now trying to rewrite the narrative as though he were the victim. Then came the predictable, but still jaw-dropping, twist. Scott's defense hinged entirely on blaming James. Yes, the same man whose charges had been dismissed, whose wristwatch had been smashed, and whose phone had been thrown in a drain. According to Scott, it wasn't his actions that caused the scandal. It was James' behavior that somehow forced him into all of this. It was the kind of deflection that leaves you wondering how someone can look at a room full of concerned parents and still maintain such a tone. And that's the pattern with Scott. The narrative is never about responsibility, accountability, or the law. It's about preserving his image at all costs, no matter how absurd the claims. In that moment, it became clear this wasn't a man trying to make amends. This was a man using charm, misdirection, and deflection to survive in public office while the weight of his past actions loomed over every word.
Address what has not been told. The person that was on the opposite side of that. If you don't know his name or his internet name, please search him. I'll say it. James Snow. His name on the internet is Tyrant the Terminator. He goes around and he purposely tries to create issues. And he finds situations and he tries to blow them up to get a rise out of people. Prior to that event that took place, he came out there before and raised an issue in the Robbins Health Clinic. And that was our first time ever having any encounter. In between those months of February and July, the same person has took time on pages to harass me, cyberbully, as well as make threats. So on this day in question, what has not been shown is the fact that while trying to create yet another issue and another rise, and videoing and trying to capture video of civilians walking in and out of the station that begged him to not video them. When he was at the clinic videoing patients, which is a HIPAA violation, he was trying to video behind the clerk's desk where law enforcement and sensitive information that could have had anybody's information in here was on there. He was trying to video this stuff to get information. So being requested to leave was not his choice. He chose to continue to try to do things. What was not shown was him aggressively coming towards me, but because I'm held at a higher standard.
Ah, yes, the classic everyone gets mad defense with just a dash of was his fault sprinkled in for flavor. And of course, Scott threw in the obligatory, I'm a public official, I should be held to a higher standard. Complaint, as if anyone needed reminding. But it only made the moment feel even more absurd. You could practically hear the I rolls through the room. Then came the Pi CD rare assistance. Scott launched into his humanizing the badge speech. A concept he clearly didn't understand, because what followed was less reflection and more self-serving pontification. The speech dragged on, full of empty phrases and clumsy attempts at empathy, as if reciting a script from a political training manual. It didn't take long before patience ran out. Someone in the crowd, finally seeing through the smoke and mirrors, heckled him. Booing erupted. The public had reached their limit. Scott, who had spent the entire meeting trying to salvage credibility, was literally chased out by the very community he claimed to serve. And just like that, the meeting became less about defense and more about exposure, a live demonstration of why accountability matters and what happens when it's ignored. The chief wasn't just failing to answer for his actions. He was actively reminding everyone why trust in public officials is fragile and easily broken.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scott. So at this time, I'll turn it up. I'm sorry, ma'am. We can't. At this time, I understand what you're trying to say. You gave him 7 minutes. I understand. Just said it was Carl Scott. Resource officer. We are no longer taking any more public comments at this time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. That concludes our closed session.
I took accountability.
Yeah, Carl, we're not gonna go back. Go ahead.
I took accountability. I did. All right.
It's everybody's fault but yours. You sound ridiculous.
Keep saying your saying. We gotta finish the meeting. I wouldn't leave her out there. All right. Thank you so much. It is now December.
In Robbins, Illinois, the local police department wasn't just struggling, it was unraveling. By 2021, nearly the entire force called in sick in protest over low pay and poor working conditions, leaving the village without a functioning police department. The Cook County Sheriff had to step in just to keep basic public safety intact. Mayor Darren Bryant promised reform and brought in David Shepard as chief. Shepard rebuilt the department, fully staffed it, and even reduced crime. Yet political clashes with the mayor led to his termination. Shepard later filed a lawsuit alleging corruption, exposing cracks in the system. Enter Chief Carl Scott, the man who would take this chaos to a whole new level. Fast forward to April 2024. YouTube auditor James Snow, better known as Tyrant Terminator Audits, visited a local health care center. According to Snow, Scott and 2 officers handcuffed him, placed him in a patrol car, and issued citations that were later dismissed in court after judges reviewed the footage. But Snow's attempt to file a formal complaint revealed just how far Scott was willing to go to evade accountability. Body camera footage stops abruptly because Scott ordered the cameras off. What remains shows Snow allegedly trapped in an interview room, interrogated and beaten for over 30 minutes. His wristwatch smashed, his phone thrown into a drain. Released with only a minor summons, CBS News Chicago eventually picked up the story. But by then, Scott had already resigned before he could be fired, leaving lawsuits and criminal charges to follow him. And yet, despite all of this, Scott somehow maneuvered himself into public office. While under criminal investigation, he was elected vice president of Elementary School District 159. Parents were blindsided someone facing serious allegations and caught on camera abusing authority was now in a position overseeing children. Scott's attempt to defend himself. A cringe-worthy, self-serving performance in front of parents and the community. He launched into pity speeches, deflected blame onto James Snow, and tried to humanize the badge, though his actions suggested he had no real understanding of accountability, civil rights, or even the law. The crowd quickly lost patience, heckling and booing him out of the room. As of today, Scott remains listed as vice president on District 159's website. No action has been publicly announced to address community concerns. James' civil lawsuit is still pending, and the broader lesson: small municipalities often operate like a revolving door for public employees who are unaccountable, moving from one position to another until they land somewhere that limits risk. Scott's story is a warning. It's a case study in how power, politics, and perception can shield misconduct, and how individuals who abuse authority can continue to hold positions of trust, even when the public knows the truth. And it's a reminder that accountability isn't just about law enforcement. It's about the systems we trust to protect our communities. If nothing else, this story connects the dots in a way rarely seen on YouTube, from police misconduct to political survival to public oversight, or the lack thereof. Support James Snow and his Tyrant Terminator Audits channel. This is the kind of reporting and documentation that keeps people honest. Because at the end of the day, no badge, no title, no office should make someone untouchable.